Last time we talked about why Yule cares so much about Tess. It's because Tess spent her whole previous life hearing "I'm in pain." Now, we see how Tess's mom was clumsy like the naughty prince. Despite their pain, they both still smile. These memories make Tess really miss her mom. She wonders how her mom is doing after passing away and hopes she isn't mad at her. Tess doesn't dislike her parents in this new world. She's actually really thankful for their love. But she can't stop thinking about her mother crying desperately, begging her not to leave her alone. Unlike her new family, her original mother only has Yule, so she needs to go back to her original world as soon as possible. Then, all the nightmares and pain, like being stabbed with a knife, will stop. She remembers what the Grand Mage said, that Mount Guanixin has always been a mystery, and there might be a gateway there to another world. So, our sweet girl tries to get her elf mother's attention. She hints that elves, unlike humans, are closer to the fairy realm. She nervously asks her elf mother if she knows how to move between worlds, ending with an innocent smile. Her hands tremble with anticipation and anxiety for the answer she'll receive. She really needs to go back. In her mind, all she thinks about is being by her mother's side again. We find out there are only 100 days left until the Heartland family's exile. The Duchess is puzzled by her daughter's sudden and strange question. She asks Yule why she's curious about such a thing. It would be easier if she could just ask for help directly. Despite being loved as their true daughter, she can't let anyone know she doesn't belong here, no matter what. Yule makes up an excuse, saying she's been studying with the Grand Mage and there's something she doesn't understand. Maybe her mother, being the only elf in the capital, might have the answer. The innocent mother accepts her excuse happily and is glad to be recognized by her cute little daughter. Seeing her genuine reaction, Yule can't help but feel guilty for deceiving her. Despite everything, her mother's expression turns regretful, saying she can't give information about other worlds. This response shocks Yule. It suggests her mother does know something but can't say. Yule becomes desperate and tells her she came from the fairy world, so she must know something. But the Duchess stays firm, saying it's a secret she can't reveal. Sadness fills the elf's eyes as she really wants to answer her daughter's innocent question, but can't break confidentiality. She explains that unlike fairies born and living in the fairy realm, elves have to keep truths unspoken while living in the human realm due to a certain restriction. It's like a contract signed by the elf race, a safeguard to maintain the order of the world they live in. Growing more curious and anxious, Yule bombards her mother with questions, asking if the contract is with a god and if so, which one. She wants to know because there are 2 gods known in the content. On the sidelines, Tess notices Yule's anxious behavior. Despite all the questions, her mother just says she doesn't really know the specifics of the contract. This whole situation brings Yule down, leaving her shocked. It's a disaster really. Asking her mother was her last hope of finding a way. After they finish breakfast, we see Tess worriedly watching Yule. She's frantically searching for books to find answers, leaving materials scattered on the floor. Tess suggests she calms down a bit, but her concern falls on deaf ears as Yule continues to toss books aside, one by one, looking for the one she needs. And then she finds it, an ancient-looking book with a cover hinting at its age. Yule immediately opens it and skims through it. Having no choice, Tess joins Yule in skimming the book. The text explains that in the beginning, there were 2 gods, Lux, the god of light, and Demon, the god of darkness. Lux created the continent and taught humans their way of life, protecting them from the temptations of Demon. As time passed, the gods vanished, but the continent remained divided between believers and non-believers, leading to endless wars. Unfortunately, that's all the book could offer about the gods, leaving Yule feeling disheartened and disappointed. The rest of the content focuses on the Northern Empire, which has been losing to the Southern Empire, facing consecutive defeats since the arrival of the first emperor. Unlike the Southern Empire, the Northern Empire doesn't have a state religion, so their studies about gods are relatively weak. Yule had hoped for more information since most of the Northern Empire now believes in the god Lux, but unfortunately, nothing seemed helpful. Feeling defeated, she lies down, contemplating what to do next with such limited resources. Tess lies down beside her, mentioning that Usenil seems off today. As usual, he smiles and tries to console Yule with his charm. Yule tells him it's time to return to the palace since he's been there for a while. But the prince insists on staying a bit longer. Seeing how much he cares for her, she asks him directly if he really likes her that much. Without hesitation, Tess confirms that he truly adores her. The bold prince, being his usual direct self, suggests she just come and live with him already. This surprises Yule, her eyes widening in shock. He continues, saying his parents have approved of him marrying a really nice person, and that description fits Yule perfectly. Hearing this, Yule gets up and sternly tells Tess never to say such things again in front of others, catching the innocent boy off guard. Her reaction may seem out of place, but it's because the prince's mother is watching with intense eyes. Yule knows the queen regularly hosts children's exchange parties to arrange a match between her son and the young master of the Duchy of Sheen. She wonders if Tess is unaware of this fact. She tries to brush it off, telling Tess he needs to be older before he can get married, shocking the innocent boy. Yule adds that they can't get married because she has different preferences. Tess becomes sad and acknowledges that he knows what Yule likes. According to him, she prefers a man who doesn't cry, is skilled in magic but not arrogant, and looks like the night sky with black hair and black eyes. Yule stands up and acknowledges that Tess truly understands her. With a cold expression, she says it's time to leave, but the poor boy starts to cry. With his blonde hair and blue eyes, he grabs Yule and timidly asks if there's a way for him to change her preferences. His face turns beet red with sadness, tears streaming down from his adorable puppy eyes. Yule looks at him with pity, knowing they're still children. She's not naive. She knows the prince's feelings for her are genuine. Despite that, she remains firm in her decision. Yule gently pulls her dress from his hands, saying he's already failed the no crying part. Besides, one's preferences can't be changed on a whim. At such a young age, this poor prince has already experienced heartbreak. No wonder he's turned somber, but he refuses to give up. Unable to control his emotions, he hugs Yule and desperately pleads for her to like him back. He promises her all the riches in the world and lets her read all the books she wants. But no matter how desperately he pleads, Yule's heart remains unmoved. With a firm gaze, she tells him he can't have everything his way by throwing a tantrum. One cannot force a heart to change, Yule adds softly. With a defeated voice, the prince says he understands and apologizes for his actions. With everything said and done, Yule remains composed and invites him to return to the palace. Tess stays quiet for a moment. He clenches his fist and softly says, "I don't." Yule doesn't hear him, so she asks what he means. In his mind, Tess is thinking about how he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to be away from her. But he manages to push aside those thoughts and returns to his usual cheerful demeanor, saying he'll go back if she holds his hand. With a sigh, she allows him to do as he pleases. It's not like she didn't expect this. Yule is always kind to him, but that's not enough for the prince. He wants all her attention, all her love. He stays calm, thinking about how to make Yule fall in love with him. The scene switches to outside the manor, where we see Yule diligently practicing her swordsmanship. As she trains hard, Tess watches with awe and admiration. He keeps complimenting Yule on how amazing she looks. It's clear from Yule's face that she's trying hard to ignore the persistent prince. Eventually, she manages to defeat her mentor, although he was going easy on her. The mentor, Count Guard, former captain of the Imperial Knights and the Crown Prince's current bodyguard, suggests they take a short break. He compliments Yule's skills, saying she has good form, as if she's wielded a sword before. Meanwhile, Tess quickly offers Yule a towel to wipe off her sweat. What a devoted and caring prince he is. Their moment together is interrupted by the sudden arrival of a certain person calling out to Yule by her name. It's clear the prince isn't fond of this person as he frowns upon seeing him. The newcomer is a young boy named Edel Bonart, 8 years old. Edel explains that Yule missed their sword lesson, so he came to find her. He also greets Count Guard. Yule apologizes to Edel, explaining she forgot to tell him she couldn't make it today. Meanwhile, the prince stands there quietly, holding on to Yule's clothes. The two continue their conversation about swordsmanship, appearing close and friendly. The prince clearly doesn't like the dynamic between them. He grits his teeth in jealousy. Edel notices the prince after talking to Yule and tries to greet him formally. But Tess interrupts, shouting for him to go away. He immediately confronted the boy, scolding him for interrupting whenever he pleases and commanding him to leave quickly because Yusinil will be spending time with him today. In a fit of rage, he slaps Edel. Edel just closes his eyes and takes the hit, knowing he can't and shouldn't fight back against the prince. Count Guard tries to mediate between them, warning the prince that he'll strain himself if he pushes too hard and might risk fainting. But the prince isn't listening. He orders Guard to escort Edel out immediately. All of this happens right before Yule's eyes, and she clearly doesn't like the situation. She had hoped the scolding she gave Tess the other day would stop his tantrums, but apparently it hasn't. She quickly goes to Edel's side and asks if he's okay. Edel says he's fine. Tears start falling from Tess's eyes, and he says he's hurt too. He sobs uncontrollably, claiming he's more in pain than his rival. Seeing the prince distraught like that, Yule is at a loss for words or actions, knowing the prince is completely at fault this time. As time passes, the prince's obsession with her grows, leading him to try to separate her not only from Edel but also from everyone else around her. Whenever other kids approached her, even in a gathering, Tess would throw tantrums. As a result, the Heartland family became the subject of gossip, with people saying her family had brainwashed the prince to gain favor with the royal family. However, she didn't see Tess's obsession with her as a serious problem. She thought he was just clinging to her because he was a child and she was his first friend. Yule would grab Tess and sweetly tell him not to worry, making it clear that no matter who she meets, he will always be her important friend. This reassurance always calmed him down. Just by saying those words, Tess's childish outbursts would stop, and he would smile, saying he likes her. Before long, Tess had a growth spurt and stopped visiting Yule. Even Yule's mother found it odd not to see the stubborn prince around. Recently, the Duke said Tess couldn't go outside due to his growing pains, which made the Duchess express sincere concern, especially since Yule's requests to visit him were denied. They assumed the prince was in great pain. Hearing their conversation, Yule couldn't help but worry as well. She couldn't focus on the book she was reading, preoccupied with thoughts of Tess's well-being. Without filter, her mother asks if she's sad because the prince hasn't visited her for some time. Flustered, Yule denies being worried about him, saying she just misses her magic lessons at the palace. She's trying to hide her true feelings, but her mother isn't buying it. Then, we see the sweet side of the Duke, kissing his wife on the cheek as she sips her tea. The Duchess suggests Yule should take the opportunity to have more sword lessons with Edel, but it's clear he wasn't on Yule's mind. Her mother continues, saying if she and Edel get engaged as a result of their friendship, it might be best. Hearing this, the Duke chokes. He tries to scold his wife, but she explains that it would help Yule put more distance between herself and the crown prince. This prompts Yule to ask if her mother's comment is due to rumors, but she clarifies she couldn't care less about gossip. Then, the Duchess says something that shocks Yule. She expresses a feeling that Yule growing closer to the crown prince wouldn't be good for her, based on her elf intuition. She seems serious about this, and Yule takes a moment to ponder her words. Lately, the Duchess has been quite vocal about her dislike for Tess. She considers the idea of getting engaged and thinks it's not a bad idea. If Yule had a fiancé, Tess would have to watch his behavior around her, and everyone would lose interest in her and her family. While it may seem like a logical choice considering all the factors, Yule doesn't like it. She tells her parents she has no plans to get close to anyone, as she'll eventually return to her original world. Becoming attached to this world would be troublesome, so she chooses not to have deep relationships with anyone here. To reassure her parents, she smiles and tells them not to worry about her connection with the prince. He's like a brother to her, nothing more. Contrary to what her mother said, Tess has grown considerably since she last saw him. He now acts like a proper royal, minding his manners and showing the demeanor expected of a prince. Yule is shocked to see Tess after so long and notices how tall he's grown. She almost calls him by his name but stops herself and addresses him as Your Majesty as she greets him. However, the prince doesn't allow her to bow her head. He informs her that he sent the guards away, so they're alone. With that fact, he urges her to stop speaking to him politely and not to bow to him either. Tess gently holds her hand and pleads with her to stop treating him like a stranger. He kisses her hand and says it breaks his heart to hear her speak so formally to him. Yule blushes at the prince's incredible transformation and how much he's improved over time. Tess takes this opportunity to tease her about how red her face is. Her cheeks turn even redder, and she stutters as she searches for words. Managing to regain her composure, Yule turns around and tells the prince to be quiet. She explains that she only feels nervous when she's at the palace, which is why her face is red. After all, she has to mind the prying eyes of the people and her etiquette, starting from the entrance checkpoint, which is proving to be exhausting. To reassure her, Tess says she doesn't need to bow to him, and if she wants, he'll change everything to make it convenient for her. She takes his words as a joke, knowing a child like him doesn't have the power to change the laws of the empire. But Tess speaks confidently, saying his methods will remain a secret for now. He asks her to be patient and observe from the sidelines. Although Yule can't clearly recall his expression that day, it was when her elf intuition first kicked in. Her concern was evident as she sensed something wasn't right. But after that day, Tess withdrew back into the palace. With demons causing chaos at the border, the ominous feeling faded from Yule's mind. Time passes, and we see the Empire celebrating the 6th birthday of the Crown Prince. Yet, with a somber expression, the countdown until the Heartland family's exile from the capital drops to 35 days. That would be all for today's episode. Continue joining us as we uncover Tess's and Yule's Dazinti. And as always, it is our destiny to discover new manhwas.